Ceci est un livre audio autogénéré par Google. Backover. Épigraphe. Volume publicato, con il contributo di centro sulle dinamiche economiche, sociali della cooperazione, CESC, dell'Università degli Studi di Bergamo. La casa éditrice L'Harmattan Italia SRL appartient al Gruppo Internazionale L'Harmattan, www.editions-harmattan.fr, con sede centrale a Parigi, ma présente con una dozzina di filiali in Europa e Africa. Il catalogo accoglie opere pubblicate in italiano e in altre lingue, francese, inglese, portoghese, spagnolo, per favorir, tramite le vari strutture del gruppo, la diffusione all'estero dei volumi, stampati con doppio ISBN. Il catalogo ha un taglio prettamente universitario, e i titoli approfondiscono tematiche connesse al scienze socio-umanistiche. L'Harmattan Italia ha rilevanza scientifica sia per la rete di cui dispone, che le permette di promuovere le proprie pubblicazioni in seno alla comunità accademica italiana e internazionale, sia per l'edizione di monografie e saggi coletani sottoposti al procedure di valutazione in adempimento dei criteri di valutazione in uso. 1. Islam in the Balkan. Vision and interpretation of religious belief in the region, from the Ottoman Empire to the Dayton Agreement, Michele Brunelli. There is no God but God, Muhammad is the prophet of God. The Shahada, the profession of faith, is the quintessence of Islam, the distinctive symbol of the Great Ummah, the widespread Muslim community which today numbers almost 2 billion believers. Beyond the concept of unity, developed around an absolute monotheism and the transmission of God's word through the last of his messengers, Rasul Allah, becoming the seal of the prophets, Katamu en Nabiyyin, the over 14th century in which Islam has existed and evolved have led to difference of interpretation for some of its theological aspects, and likewise a differentiation in the application of the decrees contained in the Holy Quran. Even the approach to divine oneness, to that La ilaha illallah, has been given different interpretations from which dispute have emerged, not just doctrinary but even full-blown conflict. Of course, division within a belief are not characteristic of Islam alone. One just has to consider the different interpretations that Christian churches of the earliest century gave to the title to be attributed to Mary, whether it should be Christotokos, Mother of Christ, or Theotokos, Mother of God, which led to the Nestorianism. Likewise, there is the dispute of the filioque concept of Trinitarian theology, in the locution ex patre filioque procedit, in other words regarding the fact that the Holy Spirit, according to the Holy Roman Church, proceeds both from the Father and Son, and not just from the Father as the monopatrist maintained. Again, in this case the dispute, along with political prerogative regarding papal authority, led to the Great East-West Schism. Returning to Islam, the interpretation of an absolute, total monotheism expressed in the Tawhid, the indivisible oneness of God, for which Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab became the inspirational figure and promoter in the 18th century, has led to a bitter opposition in contemporary politics against the Shiites guilty of a veneration that is not exclusive, solely and uniquely for God, but also includes the Prophet and above all his cousin Ali and his two sons Hassan and Hussein, and who only in part complied with aniconism, in other words the prohibition on depicting the human and divine face. The bizarre, extremist application of this absolute monotheism led the Taliban, in their iconoclastic fury, to destroy the enormous statue of the Buddha of Bamiyan in Afghanistan, and the militants of the so-called Islamic State to destroy part of the historic and cultural heritage of sites at Palmyra, Nineveh and Raqqa, and moreover to consider the Shiite, and with them the Yazidi, at Takfir, and therefore liable to be sentenced to capital punishment. At the opposite side of the spectrum of the many Islam that exist today within the community of believers is Sufism, the spiritual current of the entire Mohammedan creed, whose aspiration is to attain a divine presence in man starting from earthly life, and that also contemplate, at least from the 12th century on a social dimension, which takes physical form through the formation of brotherhoods, turuk, literally ways, in singular form tarika or orders. Linked to a founder, these orders are initiatic in character, and trace their origins back to the Prophet through Ali, father of Shi'ism. From the start, the brotherhoods may with great success and succeeded in attracting thousands of new acolytes, attracted by the desire to live in the master's shadow, the methods of purification practiced by the Sufi, and professing the cult of saints, awliya, literally God's friends, around which a true popular cult began to develop. In the Balkan region, this conciliatory Islam began to develop with the Ottoman conquest, and it took root in the territory through the institutions that they founded. This initiated a wholly original path of development, different to most of the other regions in which beliefs often arrived by means of merchant travelers, wandering preachers and missionaries. This was a process that did not start from the bottom, from the communities that were gradually becoming Islamic, but rather from an institutional religion focused on the ulama, on the class of theologians and jurists, and on the various madari, namely pedagogical institutions for teaching and disseminating the Holy Book and its guidance, which gradually spread through local society by means of the fundamental contribution by members of the Ottoman army, in whose ranks there were various militant orders, chivalrous religious order, including the Ghazi, mercenaries with marked religious sentiment, the Haki, armed corporation of artisans and merchants, and above all the dervishes, with whom the two formed order had strong bond. Their common ground was in fact the futuwa, a code of chivalry that tended both to ennoble man the warrior, through compliance with moral code, and also gave rise to stable social units that had religious, military and political influence in much of the Islamic world, and in this instance in the Balkans after the arrival of the Ottoman army. Important figure in the Ottoman vanguard and who played an important part in the Turkish conquest of the Balkans, dervishes and the Ghazi acted both as warriors and as missionaries. They settled in the new territories, founding their teke, retra in which these Muslim religious brotherhoods could live as a community, practicing agriculture and turning the teke into pole of attraction for people of the same religion, while the Haki, also strict followers of the Futuwa, helped to give rise to a new urban culture and economy, in turn, founding corporation of artisans and tradesmen, thus creating the first embryonic Muslim urban population. Teke and corporation thus became the first institution in which a lifestyle, based on Quranic teaching and models of local and economic development complying with religious diktat which gradually combined with the more extensive imperial precept, contributed to forming a new model for Muslim society in the Balkans. Notwithstanding the apparent heterodoxy attributed to the interpretation that these brotherhoods, influenced by Sufi teaching, gave to religion, Istanbul encouraged their operation, even providing them with financial help, because this model was considered a useful tool for ensuring the spread and consolidation of Islam throughout the territory, as well as also ensuring the exportation of a model for land development in the empire's peripheral reaches. The consequent Turkish Ottoman pattern of Islam that took root in the Balkans and more specifically in Bosnia, not through the work of the Arabs, just as in the majority of historical and geographical Muslim contexts in northern Africa, or expressly Middle Eastern and Asiatic areas, left a different cultural imprint that gradually gave a distinct identity to language and tradition. In addition to this characteristic, there is the fact that Bosnian Islam is unique for having spread in an indigenous European population such as the Slaves, and therefore it represents an interesting example of an Islamic culture born on the European continent. Even though the primeval form of the belief supported by the Ottoman developed within Sunni Islam, and more precisely in the Hanafi juridical school, the acceptance and integration of groups of non-Muslim believers in the imperial territory led to the choice not to exclusively apply the Sharia, but rather favoring its combination with the existing code of customary law among the subjugated population. All the more so, other doctrinal interpretations were freely tolerated, foreign to Hanafi beliefs, and the dervishes and Sufi made an important contribution to the creation of a syncretic and communicative Islam, with an attitude to cohabitation, In the same way that cohabitation was common among the members of the Islamic Ummah and the Dhimmi, those who belonged to the Halal Dhimma, the protected people, believers from other monotheistic religions. Sufism itself does not have a homogeneous system of doctrine that hallmark it precisely, with respect to other expressions of Islam. This esoteric and mystic current has, at its strong point, the conviction of having a special elective relationship, through which the initiate, for whom a state of grace is guaranteed, can establish a form of communication with God, in order to obtain spiritual communion and therefore gain access to divine truth. This state of grace, the exclusive key for access to the divine, is apparently acquired during a long path of spiritual development and growth, performed with the guidance of a master, peer. Mastership, namely the capability of transmitting a state of supernatural blessing to a disciple, can render a Sufi, but also a master outside this doctrine, worthy of veneration. The 12 Imams of Shi'ism were also celebrated, and likewise the perfect man, Al-Insan al-Kamil, in which the human being is seen as a reflection of divine quality, representing the combined expression of the manifestation of the real absolute in the universe. This is an extended devotion, which, according to the indisputable and extreme interpretation of some currents of Islam, such as Wahhabism or Salafiyya, is in contention with the idea of absolute monotheism. Music, with a few exceptions such as the Anashid and likewise profane love and wine, which tend to be deprecated by tradition, are considered a means through which a symbolic experience can be performed, bringing one closer to divine love and mystic ecstasy. In fact, Sufi devotional music is well known, and it takes inspiration, in a wholly cross-sectoral manner, from the most varied historical and geographical components of the Islamic Ummah, from the Persian version by Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi, 1202 à 1273, and Hafez, 1315 à 1390, and the Punjab expression of Bulleh Shah, 1680 à 1757, or Khwaja Ghulam Farid, 1845 à 1901. These are all characteristics that this special type of Islam, intercommunicative and tolerant, would live in Bosnian terrain. Among the various Sufi currents that helped shape indigenous, syncretic Balkan Islam, without doubt there are Bektaşiya, Naqshbandiya, Shadiliya, and above all Malamatiya in Bosnia, though originating outside the area, they played a significant role at a regional level. Each of them had distinctive characteristics, and initially they had well-defined geographical reference to identify their place of foundation and development. However, over time, most of the Turks spread beyond their place of origin, and became part of a wider network of Sufi communities, whose shared characteristics nonetheless remain mysticism, teaching by means of an initiatic process, and their efficacy in assimilating different individual trends together with communitarian traits. The Bektaşiya, with strongly syncretic Sunni, Shiite and Christian elements, with many followers in the selected core of the Janissary, perhaps precisely a result of their shared ancient Christian component, transmitted this blend of elements to the Balkan territory. The Bektaşiya order preserved and thus passed on various pre-Islamic elements, as well as some traditions that we could define as being rather unorthodox, almost heretical according to some, but that were perfectly suited to certain situations, such as the needs of indigenous people, for example in Albania, a region in which the syncretism of Christian and Islamic elements gave rise to a sort of third path, leading to a mixed religion. From Christianity it borrowed the ritual of the distribution of wine and bread, which immediately reminds us of the Eucharistic sacrament, and that of confession, through which it would be possible to obtain forgiveness for one's sins. In addition, celibacy was an institution for some people in this current, and they were hearing a distinctive and characteristic mark in this respect. There were also a number of elements taken from Shi'ism, from the central importance of Ali ibn Abi Talib, cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, through to the Twelver cult, with particular veneration for Ja'far al-Sadiq, the sixth Shiite Imam. The influence of the Trinitarian concept of the divine is undoubtedly a profoundly syncretic expression. From Father, Son and Holy Spirit, it would become, among the Bektashi, Allah, Muhammad and Ali, the latter an element of union and connection between God and His last prophet. From a symbolic point of view, 4 and 12 were the numbers underlying Bektashi philosophy. Their white address is characteristic for the 4 folds and the 12 folds, gore or triangle, representing the 4 doors that have to be crossed, the Sharia, the Tariqa, the spiritual path, the Ma'rifa, true knowledge, and Hakika, truth, which correspond to the 4 class of people, the Abid who revere God, the Zaid who override legal observance, the Arif, or Gnostics, and the Mu'ib, lovers or Sufi. The 12 triangle on the address recall the 12 apostles of the New Testament, and are also a reference to the 12 imams of the Shiite world. There were 12 rituals that they used in prayer, and it was also the number of facets of the stone that they wore at their neck, a stone of submission, Teslim Tazi, which was also widely used in architecture. Malamatiya, like the Bektashiya, was also particularly important in bringing foreign models into the Balkan, again Sufi in nature, and therefore syncretic and intercommunicative. The Malamatiya Brotherhood has roots in the northeastern region of the Iranian uplands, and in the Balkan it became the means that led to the spread of certain beliefs revolving around the martyrdom of Al-Hallaj, 922, defined by Louis Massignon, and a result of his work, familiar even in the West, le martyr mystique de l'Islam, the mystic martyr of Islam. Once again, this Sufi martyr in terms of his life, works, sermon, preaching, and above all his death can be considered an element syncretic with Christianity. There are many analogies with the interpretative traditions that compared him to the figure of Christ, and these are particularly evident in the 2 volumes by Massignon. Sachez, annonce-t-il à la foule, dans la mosquée d'Al-Mansour à Bagdad, que Dieu a rendu mon sang licite pour vous, tuez-moi donne. Vous en aurez récompense, explique-t-il, car vous aurez combattu ainsi pour la foi, et moi je serai mort martyr. Il n'y a pas d'œuvre plus urgente pour les musulmans que mon exécution. Let it be known and announced to the crowd in the mosque of Al-Mansour in Baghdad that God has made my blood licit for you, kill me then. You will have a reward for it, he explained, because you will have thus fought for the faith, and I will have died a martyr. For Muslims, there is no more urgent task than my execution. This conveys the idea that the quest for the only God has to be attained through the love of will and the way of suffering. In this vision, the relationship between the divine and the human is almost friendly, and the substantive used to address the Almighty are familiar, you, the friend, the beloved. In notable contrast with the traditional Muslim vision, in which he is held to be and considered as inaccessible, while man has to be included in a dimension of total abandon to his desires, in complete submission, exactly as the word Muslimun seems to suggest and signify. Based largely on Kabbalism and on theosophical ideas, which would become their distinctive hallmark, disseminated in the Balkan in part by the Bektashiya, these brotherhood's followers were convinced that divinity was a part of man himself, and that the Sharia had to be subordinate to the path of Sufi wisdom, path of the Sufi. These beliefs, concepts, ideas and syncretisms penetrated deeply into the Balkan cultural tapestry, or revived popular beliefs or traditions that had only apparently been cloaked by traditional Sunni Islam, and would become tangible elements typifying the people of this region. In the same way that the transnational Islam of the Ummah is not monolithic, but rather subdivided into many different currents, from the most intransigent such as Wahhabism, or a all-encompassing a Deobandi right through to Sufi mysticism, Balkan Islam also fully reflects this sort of plurality, to an even greater degree when considering pre-existing religious tradition and all the shared elements that made the peninsula a location of meeting and intermixing. The Christian environment, on which Balkan Islam was superposed, had a notable importance. On this subject, the impressions painted by British anthropologist Edith Durham are particularly eloquent. In her writings Burden of the Balkan 1905 and I Albania 1909, she described the way in which there was a sort of two-track religion in which, under the official dawn of the Muslim religion, at the dawn of the 20th century there still lay the ashes of Christian tradition, with both levels linked by a dense network of rituals. More specifically, Peter Sugar in his Islam in Bosnia, noted how the mountain dwellers of Albania called themselves Constantine in front of Christians and Suleiman in front of Muslims. They observed the fast, would receive communion, and be married following both Christian and Muslim rite. They would publicly frequent the mosque and in secret the churches. Certains villages would even have clandestine priest. When an inhabitant died, there would be a funeral service through priest of the Greek church and subsequently burial in a Muslim cemetery. And again, in southeastern Europe under Ottoman rule 1354 à 1804, et underlined. What emerged was a curious variety of European or rather Balkan folk Islam, which included icons, baptism to prevent mental illness, and many other basically non-Muslim features. It was not difficult for Christians whose faith was of the superstitious folk variety to pass over to a similar but more secure folk version of Islam. This, which was true for the Balkan, took concrete form to an even greater degree, and in a way was amplified in Bosnia, a region in which Islam had certainly absorbed traits and characteristics typical of European society and had undergone secularizing influence. Here Islam had a function of both cultural and religious identity, and it combined all those practices that helped create an indivisible link among the population, a solid basis for the ethnic and religious group's identity, the foundations of its mythomotor. In this dual but at the same time symbiotic nature of cultural function and religious identity, the former aspect was more deeply rooted and connected to urban society, which had always been permitted by a dominant Islamic culture, in part due to the greater possibilities of interaction with neighboring regions, not only for trade, but also for the cultural vivacity that has always hallmarked the Balkan. On the other hand, religious tradition, ritualist and primarily Christian, could be seen more openly and distinctively in the village in rural areas. History and religion, change in the perception of Islam under the Habsburgs. In 1878, with the stipulation of the Treaty of San Stefano in the small like-named village on the coast of the Sea of Marmara, and the resultant Treaty of Berlin, the geopolitical situation of the Balkan, which up until then had been relatively stable, was changed. The Tsarist Empire, on the wave of the failed Serbian revolt that had broken out in Herzegovina in 1875-76, the Nevšinska Puška, Nevšinj rifle, caused by the ill treatment of the Serbian Orthodox and Catholic population by the Ottoman governors, realized the inevitability of taking a position in defense of the Slav population and declaring war on the Ottoman Empire, that was undergoing a period of deep political, military and above all economic crisis. The result of the decision taken in the capital of the Second Reich, in part modifying the terms of the Treaty of San Stefano, reduced the role of Russia in Bulgaria, confirmed the independence of Serbia, Montenegro and Romania, and ratified Austria's administration of Bosnia. The course of the history of the Ottoman presence in the Balkan, and its position as a dominant power in Eastern Europe, including the Mediterranean area, accelerated considerably, and the period between the Balkan Wars, 1912 à 1913, the prelude to the Great War and the 1923 Treaty of Lausanne, saw the definitive withdrawal of the Ottoman Empire from European soil and its political and institutional disintegration. However, the retreat of the Ottoman Empire, which would then become a lay republic through the intention of Mustafa Kemal and thus attain its successive status as a nation, did not lead to the disappearance of the local Muslim population, which by that time had been deprived of their tutelary deity. The region saw the continuing presence, at least in part, of novel state organizations dominated by Christians, who found themselves having to come to terms with a completely new political and cultural environment. However, even after the end of Turkish Ottoman domination, under the Habsburg monarchy, the local Muslims gave rise to a centralist institution, the Mashika Islamiyya, which usually indicated the community of notable and of the elderly people, above all in the urban environment, and had a degree of political influence in the city itself, to the point that this institution could be compared to a town council. At the same time, the reformist currents that were running through part of the Ummah found fertile terrain even in the Balkan Muslim region, and with the project for the reform of academic syllabi, as well as of the madrasa, madari, and the Islamic faculties, teaching regarding modern science were introduced, in a perfect combination with those of traditional character. The Bosnian madari perpetuated tradition, including the architecture of the ancient Seljuk structure, with an open courtyard with 2 or 4 atria with pointed arch and cells used for teachers' accommodation. The education program of these secondary schools comprised the practice in Quranic interpretation, referred to using the term tafsir, the study of a prophet's hadith, and that of Islamic law. There was a close correlation between local power and the scholastic system, because the latter enabled the formation of a Muslim elite that went on to perform executive role in the local institution. As a result, the preservation of the Muslim community itself inevitably followed the preservation of the schools. In other words, the survival of the madrasa an institution formed to dispense knowledge, create culture and spread the religion, meaning the survival of Islam itself in the region. Up until 1878, the year that marked the end of the Ottoman administration, Turkish was the only language used in Bosnian schools. Later, with the arrival of the Habsburg domination, Croatian was introduced into the Muslim educational system, even though this did not mean abandoning use of the Turkish and Arabic languages in education, and the same was true even after 1909, when Constantinople officially recognized the formal annexation that had been performed by the Austro-Hungarian Empire 6 months before. The compilation of academic syllabi, the imparting of religious teaching and therefore the dissemination of this specific type of religious interpretation were the responsibility of the Council of Ulama, Majlis al-Ulama, supervised by Agid Ra'iz al-Ulama, the religious leader of the Bosniak, based in Sarajevo. From here the various Jama'at, grouped into the region's 6 separate muftiat in addition to Sarajevo, these were Bihac, Banja Luka, Mostar, Tranvik and Tuzla were controlled. The scholastic institution actually increased in number under the Viennese crown, from 43 in 1878 to 50 in the early years of the 20th century. In addition to the educational and training facilities, the Muslim communities in the region became more structured, and developed increasingly around other religious institutions, such as the Waqf, Waqf or Waqf in Arabic, charitable trust and the Sharecour. Important exceptions comprise the Bosnia-Herzegovina, where from 1906 the local Muslim religious communities created their own political party, revealing a lively confessional political and cultural activism whose objective included demonstrating that it was and should remain a territorial organization, and Albania, where the Sunni elite kept a tight grip on its political power, helped in part by the fact that the majority of the population were Sunni. However, the Habsburg policy regarding the Muslims in the territories that had recently come into their possession was double-sided. On one hand, Vienna tried to win their favor by leveraging their long-standing dispute with the Ottoman rulers, propounding the possibility of a fairer administration and more equitable bureaucratic organization, but on the other, it privileged Christian propaganda. In general terms, in this spirit of modernity, throughout the entire Balkan area the intelligentsia were in agreement in denouncing the lack of development of their own Muslim communities, and promoted addresses with nationalist tones, which put them into contrast with part of the traditional elite. At this particular time in history, this was a further attempt to promote the modernization of society and the state, and likewise to reconfirm certain minority rights and prerogatives, particularly in a period when, inside the Habsburg Empire, Muslim communities, which were previously considered within the more extensive context of the Ottoman Empire, no longer represented, in general terms, the majority of the population. As a result, adaptation to the new minority status also occurred by means of adaptation to the modernization of the state and society, and equally of Muslim religious institutions. This led to significant change in the way in which people related to religious doctrine, and more specifically to how they were taught in secondary schools, how they were applied in Sharia court, or used for guidance in the administration of charitable trust. Alongside this development, the Islamic community could maintain spiritual links with the rest of the Muslim world, which prevented them from finding themselves in a state of isolation, at a time when it was no longer a constituent part of an Islamic theocracy. The end of the Great War and the consequent creation of Yugoslavia as a sovereign nation brought the Muslim minority of Bosnia-Herzegovina, Montenegro, Serbia and Northern Macedonia under a single government, which, through Article 12 of the 1921 Constitution, established not only freedom of worship, but also the equal standing of all religions with respect to the state. This put Orthodox, Catholics and Muslims on the same plan, so that the different communities had equal rights. This was a significant change in the cohabitation of people in the region, because before the war, in terms of religion, Muslims did not have the same rights as people of Orthodox faith. During the 20-year period separating the Great War from the Second World War, politics began to permeate into the deepest recesses of the Muslim religious environment, and the Yugoslav Muslim organization was formed, which, even though it was an expression of landowners' interest, had the support of the population at large. In this way, it was able to acquire a monopoly on the community's business activities and goods, and likewise for the income of the various religious foundations. This economic and financial power enabled it to set up the Muslim Commercial Bank. With the arrival of the Cold War and the communist domination of Eastern Europe, the hatred of religion, that Marx himself considered a opium des volkes, the opium of the people, considerably increased, and Muslim population began to suffer discrimination for the fact that they were believers and Muslims. This mirrored what happened to other religious groups, above all in the Soviet Union, during the oppressive Stalinist period, when the Catholic Church was almost completely destroyed, the Orthodox Church became an objective for the anti-religious campaign of the 90s and 30s, and likewise, there was a spread of robust anti-Semitic sentiment after 1948, starting from the so-called anti-cosmopolitan campaign. However, Yugoslavia under Tito remained a sort of paradise island in terms of respect for and the practice of religion, when compared to other nations beyond the Iron Curtain, even though in the heartlands of Soviet territory, such as Central Asia, worship, including the Muslim faith, would still survive in the form of a parallel Islam alongside the official version run and supervised by central government. In the early 1990s, the census of Muslimani Etnika Pripadnost, Muslim ethnic belonging, was added to the categories of the national census. In 1971, it became Muslimani Usmislu Narodnosti, Muslims in the national sense, and 10 years later simply a Muslims. A more extensive freedom of worship, followed by the return of Islam's vigor, was seen in the second half of the 1990s, following the fall of Aleksandar Lekarankovic, head of the Odeljenje za Zaštitu Naroda, the country's secret service, notorious above all for the campaign against political opponents, who included part of the Catholic and Orthodox clergy, but also Albanian and Bosniak, in addition to anyone who harbored, or was presumed to be harboring, nationalist anti-Yugoslav ideas. The tragic dissolution of the Yugoslav Federation and the contamination of Bosnian Islam. When on 9 November 1989, in a press room full of journalists, Ricardo Herman, a correspondent for ANSA, Italy's official press agency, asked Günter Schabowski, who at that time was the spokesman for the East German government, when the new travel regulation decided by the DDR would come into force, he could never have imagined what this would have caused. Exhorting the spokesman to reply on the issue of freedom of travel for the East Germans, he replied that they were free to emigrate without having to give any reasons. In an exchange that has gone down in history, the Italian journalist asked if this was also true for West Berlin. The answer was yes, and so he asked from when it would be possible to emigrate, ab when. The unexpected reply was ab sofort. From now. The wall that had divided the former German capital had begun to crumble, initially conceptually, and later physically, giving rise to an unexpected and unhoped for domino effect that led to a new wave of democratization in the eastern part of Europe, which had been under the yoke of Soviet influence since the end of the Second World War. But while in general, the processes of a return to independence were generally peaceful, even in places like East Germany, where there could have been fears of a violent reaction on the part of the authorities, because apparently, Erich Mielke, one of the founders and later the head of the Ministerium für Staatssicherheit, Stasi, had issued the command that special means would have to be used to guarantee order and in other cases such as Romania which underwent a true revolution, with the execution by firing squad of Nicolae Ceausescu and his wife Elena. In the Balkans the enthusiasm for the collapse of the communist regime turned into a spiral of violence that involved not the elite in power, as in Romania, or in other states, in a certainly less violent manner, but above all entire population, which by then had become divided according to their ethnic and or religious identity. Presage of the dissolution of Yugoslavia's complex political, institutional and social system, and be sought in the period just after the death of Tito in 1980, when the worsening economic situation in the country, which had marked the entire decade, had a serious social impact and fueled nationalistic pressure. The drastic drop in export in the 1970s, -5% from 1974 to 1979, the increase in net indebtedness from $4.6 to $14 billion and what had become a chronic stagflation, would be some of the elements that tighten the divide between the richest and most highly developed republic in the north of the Federation, such as Croatia and Slovenia, and those in the southern part of the country. This completed a sort of economic separatism which, together with political separatism that became more marked with the rise to power in the mid-1980s of personalities such as Slobodan Milosevic, one of the principal exponents of renewed Serbian nationalism, at the head of the Serbian Communist Party from 1986 and of the Republic of Serbia from 1989, who tried to increase their popularity through nationalism and the protection of regional interest would bring the country to civil war. Slovenia's unilateral declaration of independence and the 10 days war that broke out as a consequence, against the Federal Popular Republic, and the analogous secession by Croatia in June 1991, gave rise to a damaging domino effect. Macedonia declared independence on 25 September of the same year, followed by Bosnia-Herzegovina in spring 1992. On the other hand, Serbia and Montenegro formed a new federal republic which marked de jure, as well as de facto, the end of Yugoslavia. While Slovenia's ethnic composition enabled the transition to an independence that all considered was not traumatic, at least from the internal point of view, the lack of homogeneity of the other new republic led to further geographical fracture and interethnic conflict, which increased centrifugal pressure, in some cases giving rise to the phenomenon that is now known as balkanization, in other words, a collapse into a state of chronic civil disorder or political fragmentation. Part of the population of Croatia, formed of Serbians 12%, after having refused the secession, quan the motto Samo Cloa CPBUNA Knakavea, only unity saves the Serbs, and, with support from the Serbian Montenegrin Federal Force, formed the Republic of Serbian Krajina, December 1991. However, it would be in Bosnia-Herzegovina that the country's ethnic variety would give rise to a bloody conflict. A country with a population of just over 4.3 million people, subdivided between the relative majority of Muslims 43,5%, Serbians 31,2% and Croatians 17,4%, Bosnia effectively represented a microcosm within the Balkans. The latter two ethnic components were not just expression of different religions, but they principally embodied opposed political concepts concerning what Yugoslavia should have been, a highly centralist federation for Serbians, a decentralist system for Croatians, mirroring the popular feeling in the respective nations. Gradually the idea of collective identity that had been adopted by communism, and that the latter regime had attempted to establish in the territory was replaced by ethnic nationalism, a new reference point of identity. Even though on 26 November 1992, Vinko Pulic, Archbishop and Metropolitan of Sarajevo, Patriarch Pavle and the Alhaj Jakub Efendi Selimoski, Reulema of Sarajevo, the principal leader of the Catholic, Orthodox and Muslim communities in Bosnia speedily underlined, with the Berne Declaration, that the conflict was not religious, and that on the contrary the use of any religious symbol should be strictly condemned, the confessional nature of the conflict could not be entirely ruled out, because the ethnic and national division corresponded to the religious identitarian difference, with the Serbians who are traditionally Catholic, and the Croatians who are Catholic, while in Bosnia, Islam provided both a national and religious identity. The system of Islam, which is distinctive partly for its supranational identity, embodied in the Ummah, began to take on a dominant role even in the scenario of conflict, which was developing in the region. In order to aid the Bosniaks of the same religion, and to support Muslims in Kosovo, foreign forces arrived in the name of an intense feeling of pan-Islamism, and they began to bring fighters even from extremist currents of Islam into the region. The war from 1992 to 1995 irreversibly changed the character of Bosnian Islam, both as a result of the persecution that the Muslims suffered by the hands of the Serbians and Croatians, and due to a new model of Islam imported by foreign force, thus giving rise to the radicalization of Islam. This phenomenon was both very dangerous and strongly rooted in some communities, gradually involving ever wider circles of the Muslim Ummah, from the Balkan region. It ended up by sweeping through the complexity of the Caucasus, engaging the different local ethnic groups, Chechen, Tajik, Dagestani, Uzbek, and in more recent times, reaching other even wider areas of the Muslim world. Wahhabi guerrillas considered the Sufi currents that were prevalent in the region as elements of deviation from orthodoxy, corrupt variant of Sunni Islam, and that they therefore had to be uprooted. Their point of strength, exactly as it was at the origins, was believing themselves a possessor of the correct interpretation and application of the key principle of Islam, Tawhid, divine oneness, as previously underlined by Hanbali jurist Ibn Taymiyyah, 1263-1328. This interpretation was based on the death of Ibn Abd al-Wahhab, 18th century theologist and thinker from the Arabian Peninsula, against all practices in a community that had distanced themselves from the purity of the primary meaning of the declaration of faith taken to its extreme. There is no God but God. In fact, according to Al-Wahhab, only God is worthy of tribute of devotion and adoration, in an absolutely univocal and unequivocal way, and therefore every word or action that could suggest an act or expression of worship directed to another creature made the respective individual idolatrous. This gave rise to a characteristic aggression towards any presumed form of disbelief, kufr. Disbelievers were those who could be considered guilty of associationism, shirk, namely associating other figures with God. As stated by Nathana J. de Lombas in her Wahhabi Islam, From Revival and Reform to Global Jihad. Clearly, prayer to or worship of anyone or anything other than God is associationism. However, even expressing confidence in the ability of someone or something other than God to keep one safe or provide refuge can also constitute associationism. A number of different groups could be included in the category of infidels, including those of the same religion. In this sort of blacklist, in first place were polytheists and pagans, these were followed by Jews and Christians. The prayers directed to Mary, or the request for intercession of the multitude of saints that are a feature of the Church, including that of Rome, were clear examples of associationism, which could even become polytheism, if the Trinitarian concept is taken into account. Prayer as an act of adoration could not therefore be extended to the patriarch, as the Jews did, nor to the saint, Mary or Jesus, and neither to the Holy Spirit, because the only subject of adoration should be God. The attribution of the sin crime of associationism could also involve the Muslim community, or a part of it. The Wahhabi considered the Ottomans a kafir, and the Ottomans in turn were the first to consider the Christians a kafir, above all those belonging to the Dar al-Harb, Terebi excluding the dhimmi residing in the Dar al-Islam. Al-Wahhab also denounced those who, within Islam, worshipped Ali or any other companion of the Prophet. This even constituted an idolatrous cult, which could be equated with the sin of apostasy. Wahhabism is obsessed by shirk to the point that it sees it everywhere, above all in Sufism and in the cult of saints, because its objective is to lead Muslims back to the purity of the one God, Tawhid. And these were the ideas, suggestion and imperative, Along with the prejudice, the foreign militia and guerrillas began to import into a system of thought and belief that had its own unique characteristics, namely the Balkan situation. Wahhabism also condemned the religious practices of the Sufi Brotherhood, Turuk or Tariqat, which, as previously mentioned, played a very important role in this specific geographical context and expressed elements of popular religious beliefs. The Brotherhoods permitted the development of alternative currents and thoughts within the Ummah, giving rise to multiple interpretations and thus fueling a sort of dynamic intellectualization of Islam. This approach was in clear contradiction with Wahhabi practice, which insisted on the fact that the only source available for reference were the Quran and the Sunnah, leaving no room for creative interpretation. Another conflictual aspect of the new wave of thought regarding local, Sufi concept coalesced in the concept of celibacy, which, as stated above, was included in the Bektashi. The Wahhabi on the other hand generally applied the Quranic doctrine contained in the An-Nur, the light, Medinan Surah in a literal sense, and marry the unmarried among you and the righteous among your male slave and female slave. If they should be poor, Allah will enrich them from His bounty. Quran 24:32. And likewise for some Mohammedan hadith condemning celibacy, perhaps because this doctrine can be considered in relation to Christian monasticism, for which various hadith expressed a sense of disapproval. But of course, the most ignominious matter for the Wahhabi was seeing the way some brotherhoods venerated the triad alia Muhammad Ali, which directly clashed with the former's radical and exclusionist Puritanism. All this had to be uprooted, as they were the vanguard of the true faith. While these evil customs from the Wahhabi point of view could be found in regions outside the former Yugoslavia, in this area, women's inclusion and active role in society and in the public sphere were manifest, and this clashed with the traditional approach to the dynamics between the sexes, and as a result was considered a dangerous practice, if not even subversive according to some. According to Wahhabi doctrine, in addition to the fact that women had to follow a strict code of behavior, including a series of restrictions or impositions regarding dress, for example, the veil or the niqab, they had to be relegated to exclusively domestic tasks, therefore excluding those connected to public life. The acceptance of polygamy and the prohibition of physical contact between men and women were also practices whose observance was fundamental and consolidated, and was rigidly applied in some of the countries of origin of the fighters arriving in the region, such as Afghan, Saudi and also Egyptian, Yemeni and Pakistani. They harbored concepts, rules and prohibitions that were archaic and totally out of date in a social context that was not just European, but also profoundly and fundamentally socialist, at least considering the last half-century of Balkan history. What happened in the Balkan and above all in Bosnia in the early 1990s could be emotively compared to the Spanish Civil War, 1936 à 1939, to which combatants arrived from much of Europe and further afield to save the country from fascism. There was a prevalent concept of legitimate intervention, and there was insistence on the certainty that taking part in that conflict to defend the young Iberian Republic, and therefore freedom, was not just licit, but above all a responsibility, a duty that was also ethical and moral. While in the Spanish context, the political binding force could be found in freedom versus totalitarianism, and in generally left-wing ideology opposed to the fascist force that had rushed to support Francisco Franco. Les armies, in the Balkan context, the defense of brothers sharing the same creed was also steeped in religious questions that became imperative for the faith, because, as specified in Quranic source, Balaam could be typified as used to masepium and above all a moral obligation. When the territory of Islam is attacked, in other words, when there is a serious and sudden threat to the religion, as was the case in this particular situation. Quran 22:40. The conflict's religious connotation also included dynamics linked to the mythology of martyrdom, as well as those regarding propaganda. Fighters killed on that front became martyrs because they were fighting fi sabilillah, on God's path, trying to save Muslim brothers, and thus they deserved access to paradise. This sacrifice had to be presented, publicized and propagandized, to the honor and glory of the fallen warriors, but above all in order to inspire other fighters, encouraging them to follow the virtue example of the ultimate sacrifice. In addition to glorifying the figure of the martyr fighter, on the other hand, propaganda also tried to appeal to the conscience of potential or future fighters by disclosing the atrocities committed by the Serbians. The principal tools used were video cassettes that portrayed the lacerated bodies of wounded civilians or fighters, using images and sounds to sway the collective conscience of other Muslims as far as possible. Often these scenes were accompanied by reference to the Nazi concentration and extermination camp, in order to draw a parallel between the Shoah and what was happening to Muslims in those regions. The image and news stories were then repeated by Arab media, inviting donations in order to support the Muslim Brothers in Europe. This victimization propaganda also appeared, with an inversion of the party involved on the other front of this complex ethnic nationalist war. A correctly observed by David Bruce MacDonald, image of Serbian, Croatian, Bosnian Muslim, and Kosovar Albanian genocide and Holocaust frequently appeared in the popular media, and the reader, listener or internet surfer was berated with a continuous stream of material, all seemingly arguing the same thing. We are the victims first and foremost. Our war illegitimate because we are fighting against annihilation. In the propaganda war, Muslims were presented as Islamic fundamentalists, in an attempt to link their religious identity with the idea of terrorism, or, referring to the past, to collaborators of the fascists, Croatians were likened to Ant Pavelic, Sustas, who persecuted the Serbians, while the latter were described as ethnici, proponent of pan-Serbian nationalism which should have led to funding BLUKACPBUJA, Velika Serbia, the Great Serbia, and which during the Second World War perpetrated the massacre of Croatians and Bosnians. For the foreign fighters arriving in the Balkans, the region became the final frontier of the jihad, the endeavor that should have been collective, to prevent the conquest of an Islamic territory by third-party perceived as infidels, but also to ensure that the same territory could undergo radical change in terms of Quranic thought and interpretation, becoming a battleground, in part ideological, among the traditional powers of the Middle East, Iran, Turkey and Saudi Arabia. While Ankara's inclination, at least in the 1990s, were limited by the serious economic crisis that was affecting the Anatolian Peninsula, it would later recover, achieving a notable degree of economic penetration, using finance for the reconstruction of mosques as a way of accelerating its soft power. Riyadh, following a carefully planned propaganda strategy, vehemently attacked the West, guilty of hypocrisy, because while it usually took the stance of the protection of human rights, in that context it left the massacre of Bosnian civilians unpunished. Some Saudi newspapers even went too far as to predict a clash between civilizations, as had been presaged at that time by...
Nous espérons que vous avez apprécié cet aperçu. Pour continuer à écouter ce livre audio sur Google Play Livres, utilisez le lien dans la description de la vidéo.